Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the AI Revolution weekly call. I'm Bryce Smith, trading with Cody and 10,000 Days Capital Management. And also here today, as always, is John D. Oliveira, who is our AI expert, 30-year industry veteran, and always has amazing insights for us every week. So welcome back, John.
Thanks. Bryce adds about a year or two to that every time that we talk. So soon it's going to be more years than my age. So.
Eventually, I'm going to be right. If this is your first time joining us, we'd like to get together every week. There's a lot happening in the world of AI, and we try to find, the most interesting and relevant topics to talk about, and then how you and us as potential investors can, try to benefit from some of this. And so, John, John, for everyone's background as well, works in AI currently and has had a lot of different roles in different AI jobs over the course of his career. And so he kind of brings the industry perspective, which is extremely helpful too. So maybe, John, you could start by just telling us a little bit about what, I would be interested to know, in the last couple of weeks, what is there anything you found just in your work and daily line of things that have you've been surprised by in AI or something you didn't know before?
I don't know if it's surprise. It's more like reinforcing, beliefs. I'm seeing that there's more and more evidence that this approach in using AI, where you supplement kind of the use of something like a ChatGPT, but from an API perspective, so where your own program is kind of talking to ChatGPT behind the scenes, that gets coupled with something like what's called a knowledge graph, where you take a company's data and you couple those things, because the ChatGPT by itself doesn't know anything about a company's own data. In multiple ways, it doesn't know anything that's proprietary, but it also doesn't know things at the level of kind of specificity that you would have in how a company goes and deals with things on a day-to-day basis. So bringing those two things together is what using AI in business is about in a lot of cases. And that's what I'm seeing is there's just more agreement that that's going to be the way it's going to be for some time to come.
And what does the process look like for getting a company's or an organization's proprietary data into a form that the AI can use it that is helpful for the company? What is, if you could simplify that, what do you think that looks like?
Well, people talk about a couple kinds of things. One is ETL, which means extract, transform, load. So the same thing that companies have gone through when they've done big data warehouse projects. So there's that notion of kind of lining up the data and getting it cleaned up and ready to be put in some place where it can get used for this kind of capability. The other is another concept people might be familiar with called scraping, where you're kind of sending some code to act like a person visiting websites and extracting all the information out of those web pages. And now you're having the computer do that, but to a company's own web pages, but then also to especially things like PDF files, taking just a ton of information, and you need to get it into a structured form, like a database. A lot of moving of stuff from unstructured to what I would actually call semi-structured, because even in that database, it's still in there as text, but it's in there as kind of chunks and pieces of text that can be, tagged and marked up and referenced and things like this.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but unstructured data could be anything, right? It could be pictures of documents, it could be PDFs, it could be videos, anything like that. So isn't part of the, in my mind, part of the promise of this, like especially the multimodal AI, is that you could potentially feed in various forms of unstructured data. The AI could understand it all and then come up with a reasoned output. Is that possible?
Yes.
Is that not yet?
No, I think that's right. Now when you do that though, it's at the time of using the language model. That's what we call ChatGPT, the language model. It's at the time of using that you're supplying it some, pictures or video or text or whatever, and saying, here's what I want to know about this, or here's what I want you to do with this, or process this, or so forth. So you still need to, at every interaction, like within every workflow, you have that occurring of get the right stuff, give it to the language model, have it help you do something smart with it, and go get it back. That kind of thing.
And that to do that at scale, like that would work for a large organization, the model has to actually be trained using that data.
No, it's not trained per se. I mean, the training is what we call the pre-training is what goes on in making the model.
Okay.
And now this is what gets called in-context learning. And that's where you're taking this information and supplying it just in time. The piece of the information that's needed to go do something intelligent with is kind of given at the last minute. And because of this increase in context size, now Gemini has 1 million or 2 million tokens, and just cut away from that a little bit. So 2 million tokens is maybe a little more than 1.5 million words. So it's not 1.5 million bytes. It's not just like 1.5 megabytes. It's, a word is at least, say 6 bytes or something. So yeah, we're talking about like many megabytes of stuff that you can hand it per question for it to go look at and do something with.
Do you think at some point in the near future, John, that the ChatGPT and Gemini, Anthropic will have it, like the context window will expand beyond just that one chat? Like it will be maybe have a working history of things you talked about even in other chats, and be like, hey, I know that we're not talking about this directly, but this is actually something relevant we talked about before. Maybe it would help now if I brought it back up. Is that ever a possibility? Because right now, if you have never used a ChatGPT, you have a chat. It's got all this history. You can upload documents or pictures. But as far as I know, it's never going outside of that chat to some other chat as a point of reference.
So I just had this like alarm bell go off. Don't answer this in a way that Bryce is going to turn out to be right again. So like my Bryce alarm tells me to say, oh yeah, it'll be able to do that. But like, let's look at where it is now. It's even worse than, let's say I have this 1 million token thing or whatever, which is like some big chunk of some company policy manual, 700 pages or something.
Right.
And I stick that in the context, which means I go and say, hey, ChatGPT, I've got a question for you. And the answer is probably in this somewhere. So I'm gonna hand you this whole thing, go like read it in and go, do the answer. And as you said, you go on later to some other chat, and it doesn't know that anymore. You had to, right, it forgot about it. But it's worse than that, because even within the same chat where you are, when you ask a follow-up question, it again reads through the 700 pages to answer that follow-up question. And it's even worse than that, because as it's providing its answer, literally like letter by letter, it's going through this thing where it loops back around and goes, okay, I said, and like sends it all back through again and goes, and sends it all back through space, sends it all back through A for the word answer. And answer to this is blah, blah, blah. If you looked real close, it's literally like looping through that that stuff over. It's just the way that the architecture, works. And so
That's why it takes a $40,000 GPU to do that.
Exactly. It's like this stuff is not playing around for how much processing it takes to do, what it's doing. And then you had something like Sora came out, which was the thing where you could describe in a sentence something, and you end up with like a video that looks like it got filmed. Similar stuff where you only said this little bit, it goes and does its thing, but it's kind of that looping around of everything. It's so much processing. Well, they already did something. I don't know what they did, but they did something with ChatGPT 4o to make it substantially more efficient. That number one makes it answer much quicker. Except today it was a little sluggish for me. I don't know. Every company has that happen, but answer much quicker. But also it must be cheaper processing, because that's how else they opened it up so that it's available for free.
Right.
So they're making progress. I haven't seen architectures that totally kind of just take that in and make it part of things. But even if they did, there's the going through that is still happening.
Well, I just asked because one of the things, like, I don't know that it's going to be practical in the long run to have like just a bunch of random chats going in history. I think at some point it all kind of needs to merge together to where it's just you back and forth with the AI, and it knows your data and it knows kind of what you want to know. Like I like the you can give it custom instructions, right? Like I want, in doing research and analysis, I want details. So I've told it that, but like, it would be nice if I could be like, okay, maybe a little less detail sometimes, right? And if it was constantly like the instruction learning, feedback, instruction learning kind of flywheel, like a human does, right? The AI would even get better and better and better, I think.
So 100%, I want it as well. But that might be a little bit different question, and for which I'd have a more optimistic answer. I took the first time you were asking it to mean, is that stuff you're providing it getting sort of built into the model so that it doesn't need to keep asking? It's like, no, it's not. That's just not the way, the thing works. But there is a thing called like MemGPT, and what's his name? Karpinski, the guy who left. I'm sure I'm messing up his name, but one of the he was like CTO.
Andrej Karpathy.
Sorry. Yeah. Wow. Sorry. Cut. Retake. So Karpathy was talking about that kind of thing, months ago, which is
really?
in terms years ago. How that having something like a MemGPT is external to the language model, but acts like an operating system. It acts like whatever's going on with that language model that you're asking it and so forth, you're keeping track. And this stuff about memory right now is kind of weak, even though, OpenAI is the one putting it out, because I have to say, remember that I like chocolate or something, and then it ends up being part of what it remembers. And what we want, I think, is just remember every interaction I had with you. Remember that they occurred in different chats, and that if I say something that sounds like it might be this chat, then go get that one and bring it up into the context. And basically just remember everything in the way, people might have an associative memory about what all's taken place, and let it grow. Now, how that goes and finds its way back into the intelligence of the model, I don't know yet. And there's lots of these models are, so you're getting these ones that are popping up that are like Mixtral, which is a mixture of experts, and maybe there's room in there for some of that to happen.
So if going to the actual training of the models, ChatGPT, Anthropic, Meta, they've trained these large language models on massive data sets from the internet, right? They use sites like Common Crawl and other sources to get just tons and tons of data that's cleaned and not like gibberish and stuff off the internet. But now other companies are training their own models. Is that correct? I mean, they're like a
Databricks.
Databricks or somebody like that, using their own data, and or a smaller data set, less parameters, whatever, more specific to actually train those models. That's now happening, right?
Yeah.
And like on an internal level, I can imagine that companies will find that more useful in general than just a text based like the chat GPT type thing. I mean, it's useful in different ways, I guess.
Yeah, I
Obviously,
was going to say, trying to be in some company, you're PepsiCo and you want to go, do something, trying to go from scratch on the general purpose stuff like what OpenAI is doing, I think they might find to be a waste of time and money. So finding some way to take what others have done, and if you are trying to control it more, you might take something like a llama or some open source thing as a starting point. But that's where we're getting into mixture of experts, is if you're going and saying, all right, I'm using this thing that was already developed, but I can slot in and do our own pre-training for a piece of the thing, and we end up with our own, but it's a fusion of what somebody else made.
That makes a lot more sense too, because it's like you don't want to. It's reinventing the wheel if you start from the beginning. Like ChatGPT, you don't need to read. It doesn't need to relearn English, right? How to speak. And if you really truly started from scratch, you would be training a computer how to form reasoned sentences, right? I mean, and so Coca-Cola or Pepsi isn't interested in doing that. They want to have a model that already knows how to speak and understand English, but then, hey, let's put in our proprietary data and see what we can get out of it.
Yeah, there's the language aspect, and then there's the reasoning aspect, and all the you might call common sense, or ability with with math or programming or analytics or all these things. There's just tons of things where you don't want to start over and try to do those things. So if things that aren't known there, that you're going to come in and know more about, like PepsiCo, or they're part of a large food conglomerate, right? I forget what one it is, but like if you know a lot about food production and distribution and all this kind of thing, and it's more than what what the general model knows, then getting it to know about those things by training on all your internal materials to do it makes sense, right? To go do that. I mean, I think even then it's going to make sense to use that for some of the making it smarter in your domain, but you're still going to have like a ton of data that is very instance level specific, about your customers and your product set that can change on a daily basis. And so that's where it comes into more setting up an architecture that combines using the LLM with using data that is stored and retrieved with, well, I've used the term before, RAG, using retrieval augmented generation to go, get at that and incorporate it into the reasoning.
And I mean, it's exciting to me because just think about what the value of an employee is. Like if Coca-Cola or Ford, somebody had an employee that had all of the institutional knowledge, right, going back over 100 years, and had been through the ups and downs of the business, and the designs that worked and the designs that didn't work, right, and the marketing campaigns that flopped, and it had all of that knowledge. I mean, if there was a real person that was like that, they would be invaluable to your organization, right? And that's the potential of what these, I think, AIs might do one day for companies.
So it goes way back with AI, as one of the examples was, was it railroad mechanics or something, some kind of railroad engineers or mechanics, where they were all near retirement age. There wasn't anybody trained up to take over what they knew, and there was a lot that needed to be known. And there's this analogy that always gets used of the retiring expert and the new out of college, let's say, new hire who has is smart, has a lot of like kind of the latest information, but doesn't know the company and everything, that all the ins and outs that would have to be learned. And in this case, the AI is the new hire. And I have a friend who was just writing an article about this. I guess it might have come out by now, but he was talking about, it's been used before, that idea that the AI is like an intern. He said, really, the AI is like an intern who had a brain injury because smart in some ways, but really bad memory, can't piece things together quite the right way. So it's like, okay, but still can be really useful. So how do we go and get the pieces working together? And there's like, one other thing about this is there's always the negative thought of, oh, but I'm just going to train this thing to take my job. It's like, well, on the one hand, yes, right, is that it's always going to make sense to try to get the computer, the system, to get talented at whatever it can and do whatever it's capable of. On the other hand, there is this potential symbiosis where it's at the same time teaching you. Say you're not retiring, you're just, in the middle of your career and you have a lot to help the AI know, but as you tell it things, it's taking some of what you were doing. But hopefully it's also giving you what you can do that it can't, and giving you this great tool for how to carry out those things, because you, the human, have although they say these things have like creative output, you have the real creativity about what really is needed there. You have the will about what's trying to be accomplished. There's we have a long time left for humans to be really useful in this regard.
And there's like a lot of problems to be solved in the world besides like making Coca-Cola more profitable, right? Like, hopefully as humans move higher and higher up the value chain and the computers can be delegated more and more tasks, like humans are like, oh, we can now solve this problem that is great for humanity, and now people aren't hungry anymore or whatever. Like, that's, in my mind, it just opens humans up to be that much more creative and solve even bigger problems.
Yeah, we can get much more productive at sending out spam.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, seems to be the first use that people find. We haven't yet really hit a lot of the usefulness for, say, scientific discovery. It's not helping enough in that area yet, and maybe it can help a little along the side of the tasks that are going on.
Google did release a model, right, that can, through DeepMind, that can like now create any protein that's ever existed, and like demonstrate what it looks like and how it reacts and all kinds of stuff. And I'm not a scientist or a biologist or anything, but from what I read about it, and that was probably a month ago, but it looked like a pretty profound breakthrough in terms of like potential drug discovery stuff.
Yeah, and about a month before that, they had one that was like discovered 500,000 materials that could be searched through for which one's going to be able to make better batteries, and all whatever different things. Like, just they found what are the possible physical combinations of atoms, essentially, to go and make all these. So they got materials, they've got proteins, but now somebody's got to go and say, I wonder if this would do this, and have a hypothesis about something and test that out. And it's not really doing it yet down that road. But I agree with you. I mean, about upping kind of the game about what it is that there's so much left to, accomplish. We should be doing that.
Yeah, no, totally. I do think one of the topics you hit on that is I have thought about before. I've heard people talk about, but like kind of this idea of like stacking LLMs to where, like just in the terms of compute power and efficiency and electricity costs, if like it does seem very inefficient for Meta, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Anthropic, XAI, like the list goes on, to all train large language models that essentially do the same thing right now. And there are differences, and some are better than others. And I use them every day, so I'll be the first to admit like there are differences. I think ChatGPT is still probably quite a ways ahead of the others in many respects. But like, is that well in the next leg of this, will there somehow be the model upon the model so that like you can take everything ChatGPT already knows and build on it, even if it's not like a company specific thing, but just so that like we don't have to retrain everything from scratch and just waste all these compute resources? Is that even possible?
There is some reuse already.
Bringing models together, you know.
There is some reuse already going on from something I heard recently. By the way, also you talk about these different models, and you know they're doing the same thing, but they're not, but they are. Mm-hmm. And there was a report recently that these models really are converging on each other in terms of how they the answers that they get, how right they are about different kinds of things, which shows that a couple of possibilities. You know, it's unlikely that they're all wrong in the same way or something. It means that there's some things that have been figured out. So, you know, right equals kind of a coordinated right that they have, even though they did it separately, but you know, it comes together. One, in terms of, I don't know about the efficiency aspect, and actually it's the piece that I would care about the least, because I'd be like, well, as inefficient as it is, if it truly is accomplishing the things we're talking about, then use the next generation of it to go help answer that, you know, efficiency question. Have it come up with what's the, you know, the architectures that we start to where it starts building itself, so to speak. And it's got that a little bit with regard to, you know, synthetic data. Turns out that's what the you know, not Q-Star itself, but the whole talk about like what was going on at OpenAI that made everyone scared, and, you know, had to do with this crossing the line on being able to keep going even if they've already sucked in the whole web. So that kind of thing. But when you talk about the stacking, I think about a different thing, which is what's getting called agents. But agency is true agency is, well, the joke is that, you know, because agency means that it could decide for itself what to do. And there's that joke about self-driving cars, is that if it were truly self-driving, I'd tell it to take me to work and it would go to the beach. Like that's autonomy. That's it deciding what it wants to do and doing it. And then alignment becomes a different problem. But it's like this notion of multiple calls to, like, I'm not just going to go and ask a question, get an answer, and I'm done. I'm going to treat it like every time I go to the language model and get something back, pretend that's like a single instruction in a CPU. Like when your computer runs and it's running now at, you know, gigahertz, you're getting 1 billion instructions going through every second, right? So now we're talking about, instead of 1 billion per second, we're getting 5 seconds for one, or, you know, 20 seconds for 4. It's like it's nowhere near the speed, but the idea of that thing being like just a little atomic, I'm figuring one little thing out, and that even though it was super smart, it was just a part of a larger thing being figured out. Now it can go help out. We were talking about with, you know, scientific this or that, or doing research for me or something. It goes and it like keeps going.
Yeah. The reason I focus on like the efficiency side is just because right now all the talk on Wall Street is this electricity shortage that's going to happen, and the mineral and mining shortage that's going to happen, because the theory goes like this: there's a fixed supply of copper, not because there's like not a lot left in the earth, but because there's no new mines being approved, and it takes 10 years to start a new mine. There's a fixed supply of electricity generation because it takes about 6 years to get a new power plant online at least. And so while those supplies are constrained, AI is fixing to just, maybe triple or quadruple the growth rate of electricity demand and copper demand. And so that's the theory. I don't subscribe to it. Not to that degree. I think obviously that the effect is going to happen, but I don't know that it's going to be as big as everyone expects. But like, I think naturally, with any market, things get more efficient all the time. I think NVIDIA's chips will get more and more efficient. I think the training of models will get more and more efficient. Inference will get more and more efficient. And so I just think I don't see like this 4 or 5x of electricity costs happening, because I mean, if you believed that hype and thought that, the growth rate and demand electricity is fixing to quadruple, and yet supply stays the same, like absent government intervention through regulatory policies, like the prices go through the roof. And I just don't. I think the market's more efficient than that. I think it's going to figure it out. If you look back, since 2007, there's essentially been no growth in the generating capacity of electricity in the United States, even though we've had substantial growth in the economy. And the internet, cloud revolution, all that has happened since then. And somehow we've done it all on the relatively same amount of electricity we've had since 2007.
So if this
Netflix was still shipping DVDs,
if the promise is not all hype, like if we are going to get some productivity gains out of the companies using this new AI, which is the, everyone says this AI is like nothing like was there before. It's like 1,000 times more useful. Then I got to ask, what is your electric bill as a ratio to your food bill right now?
I mean,
food bill's bigger.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what if that ratio flipped, and because of productivity gains from AI, you suddenly were paying 1/6 as much for food and 6 times as much for electric or something. I don't know. I'm thinking like we could have a change in the balance of power in your purse and still be okay. But it becomes like that's just, and it's worth it because of the what you're getting out of having that.
Yeah, as long as you're somehow, like on an individual basis, as long as you're somehow benefiting from AI productivity gains. If you're just a retiree on a fixed income, you might not. Well, except for the retirees, they own all the NVIDIA. So.
No, but even they don't own nothing. But if they have to, I took groceries just as an example. But everyone, if they have to eat. And if there's a shift in, not paying as much for that, which this is supposed to be the promise, is that we're going to see like deflation. So if you saw a deflation across the board, but not with electricity. Now I'm not saying that's what I want to have happen. I'm just saying like put things in perspective, maybe.
Yeah. Again, if the deflation kicked in, then that's a different story. But I don't know, especially as long as the cycles are for like electricity and mines and all that. I just am not so sure that it's all like. I mean, you got to look at. I don't know if you looked at copper prices this year. They're up like 30% year to date or something, all-time highs. And I think the market, probably more than anything else, has gotten a little ahead of itself here. And there is going to be increased demand for electricity and copper, and it is a tough supply. But I don't know that copper, should have basically doubled off of its lows 2 years ago just because of this. So in that way, it's the same with internet bubbles. The same way in 2000, everybody could see how big the internet was going to be, so they bet on every internet company, and then it took another decade or two for all of this to actually work itself out to where we are today.
And I get what you're saying too about the the bureaucracy and permitting and like just the things that make it take long. No, it's not just a matter of technology kind of advances, because even with them, you got all this other stuff in the way. I guess if it were up to the market, and if you saw like electricity doubling in price, then you see a lot of new entrants going, I'm going to get some of that. And,
that's hard to do in a government monopoly controlled market. If you could even call it that.
Yeah.
Well, John, on another topic, there's always drama at OpenAI and its CEO Sam Altman. And so in the last couple of weeks, I know there's been a few developments there, but tell us what's been happening. And I know there's been some reporting recently, even on Sam Altman's business dealings. So, always.
Well, you tell me what you read about his business dealings.
Well, Sam Altman makes $65,000 a year as salary. He has no equity in OpenAI, reportedly, and he's doing this all out of the good of his heart, the benefit of humanity. And
I don't think that, but
I mean, that's the appearance. That's why else he runs an $80 to $100 billion startup.
But he's got lots of other business interests that are kind of related to it, like the $7 trillion chip industry that he wants to go make happen.
Yeah, but like, why put off this appearance of like doing good and having no financial? It would be more honest to just draw a salary that's comparable to other CEOs of similar sized organizations.
But what about Elon Musk?
But he got a $50 billion option package.
He did until it got taken away.
Yeah.
So he goes and he says, I'm not taking anything.
Right.
Only if we, have this outrageous level of growth that you all don't think is going to happen anyway. I'll take nothing. But if that happens, then you can give me, $50 billion. And then that happens. And then a Delaware judge steps in and says, no, that's not fair.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Anyway. It's ridiculous. No, I'm totally on board with you there, John. But yeah, our incentives are, as shareholders of Tesla, we're aligned with Elon's in that case. OpenAI doesn't have real shareholders. It's a nonprofit. So they have this whole other governance thing going on. But then Wall Street Journal, and we've been saying for a while that Sam Altman has these conflicts of interest and he's doing SPAC deals with nuclear companies and stuff. Now Wall Street Journal, and I haven't even read the whole thing because it was like a 30-page article or something. I read about half of it this morning, and just all of these different startups and business interests that Sam Altman is involved with. And he's borrowing money, substantial money from JP Morgan to invest in Reddit and all these other startups.
Sam Altman, the individual, is borrowing
Sam Altman's own money
that
he's borrowing, apparently, and investing in startups. And Reddit is not really a startup anymore, but I think he's the third largest shareholder of Reddit. And OpenAI just did a licensing deal with Reddit to get access to all of their data. And then he's got a nuclear company that maybe they might do a deal with to get exclusive power. And so it looks like it's just these huge conflicts of interest. And I wouldn't, if OpenAI was a real company and had shareholders like every other company does, I wouldn't be okay with my CEO setting up side gigs and then those businesses doing substantial business with my business. That's all of it looks unethical.
Does that mean don't you handle that with disclosure?
Yeah, but I mean, at some point, disclosure doesn't even work. If you're gonna make, I'm gonna make $65,000 a year doing my day job, but I might make $1 billion in my startup, which is profiting off of my own company. I don't care how much you disclose that. There's a conflict there.
I mean, he could literally go anywhere. It almost did happen, and be handed $1 billion as a signing bonus. It's then
he should do. I think he should do that. If he's in it for the money, he should go work for Microsoft, have his own startup, and give himself 20% of the company and go for it. But he's running a nonprofit that is
not a nonprofit. It's a capped profit.
Capped profit. The actual OpenAI, I think, is a nonprofit, and then there's this LLC over here that owns. I don't know. It's the most complex.
And essentially, it's capped profit. They originally were nonprofit, then they set it up as a capped profit. So capped profit meant if you're invested in it, you can't make more than like 100 times your money, something like that.
Something, yeah. It's this fake kind of altruism that I think bothers me, and it would be more, you know,
Yeah.
honest if he just was out and out about.
You say that, and it reminds me of Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah. Right.
The kind of the altruism thing he was doing.
Totally.
Yeah.
I
don't know. Well, I feel a little like we've got this. You want things to be above board. I get that. It feels like Goose with the golden egg, which is the old story of, this goose is putting out a golden egg per day or something. And then the kingdom captures the goose and is like, wow, that's like producing a lot of, gold there. Let's chop its head off and go get out all the gold that's in there. Because it's like, no, it doesn't have it all in there. It's making it at that pace kind of thing. So like, yeah, it's or a gift horse in the mouth. It's like, here's this company that is putting out organization, whatever they are, that's putting out this technology that is changing the world at trillions of dollars level in terms of the overall economy effect of what they're doing. And it's like, maybe we need to, experiment a little with what, how these things, which is what they were trying. And it failed last year. It hit them hard, the fact that they were trying some new way to do something. And, I think they'd head for total profit company if they could just switch it all up now. But they started out one way and they found out another. So
it's a problem if you take somebody else's money who gave it to you and with the intent of you being a nonprofit and releasing
your money.
They took Elon's money.
You're worried about poor Elon. Yes, the richest man in the world. So yeah, I mean, something went on there. Obviously, he put some money in at the beginning and everything. But like, this seems like the story is he wanted to control the whole thing. He wanted to like roll it into Tesla or something, which was like, no, we don't want to do that.
Or maybe he wanted to control it just so it didn't go closed source and sell itself to like the biggest conglomerate tech company in the world,
Microsoft, and Microsoft, and maybe he didn't want it to be closed source like XAI was until people complained too much and said, "What are you even talking about?"
Sure. Well, Elon's a complicated guy.
Or maybe so you're okay with him being a complicated guy. Yeah. I just think they're both complicated guys.
I think for the most part, Elon is out there with what he's trying to do with his stuff, with his companies. There's some hidden agenda, no doubt, and he's not perfect.
He signed off the letter, to said, let's, slow down AI. Right as he was out to start up a company that would make AI as fast as it could. So,
yeah.
By the way, this slow down AI stuff, there's what people call doomers. People that are most worried about the AI causing doom.
This is to be distinguished from boomers,
I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. But there
are also boomer doomers, I'm sure.
Now, of the doomers, they end up with something like a doom scale or doom score of like, on a 1 to 10, how much they think is likely that the world's going to come to an end because of this stuff. And a lot of that comes out around the AI is going to go do its own thing and get so smart that it leaves us behind and all this kind of thing. And there are other reasons to be concerned about AI and alignment and it being under control, but not that one. I don't think so, because I agree with a number of the researchers who will say intelligence and consciousness are not the same thing. We will have a super intelligent computer that's smarter than every human on Earth way before we have a computer that has a sense of itself. Is trying to like do thing for its own sake. It's because they're just not even the same. They're not the same thing.
Like Well, computers, I guess we are reasonably confident that they will want to do their own thing. Like, are we
I'm
even
very
sure?
confident that they won't.
Yeah.
But I think that anybody can, if the computer is, smart enough, then somebody can set it off to doing a thing,
Sure.
nefarious thing on their behalf. And so it's almost like we will all be gods, and there better be more good gods than bad gods, because we're going to be at each other, and those that use it for spam and hacking and breaking into things and so forth, they have to be countered by those who will use it to recognize such things happening and stop such things from happening. Everything we already do. Remember when there used to be radar detectors, and then you could get there was a thing that would check if you were speeding, the cops would use, and then you bought one for your car that would check if there were cops in the area.
Right.
And then the cops would buy one that would check if you had one of those going, and would use it and would only burst check you and so forth. So there's an arms race, right? So we're getting into the same kind of arms race with computer capability, where it's more and more capable of bad and of good, and we have to stay ahead of it. So the real risk is letting one corporation or organization have the AI that is deciding how things are going to happen for everyone, deciding what it means for things to be good for. I know what's good for you, kind of thing, if you ever heard that. And so we need to not have that happen.
In all of the sci-fi kind of type things, the computers end up deciding that it knows what's better for us, like you're saying. And so humans are destructive in many ways, and we go to war and we do all these bad things to each other, commit crimes and whatnot. How, if in theory a computer could at some point make a decision on its own, how do you program with some kind of hardwired locking thing to hey, you can't decide what's best for the humans?
So first off, I think it's the wrong thing to worry about.
It is.
Because way before that happens, before a computer decides, hey, I think I know what's better for you, there will be, as there are now, people saying, I know what's better for you. And then using the computer and the AI and all those smart agents to having a computer behind a human behind the curtain, or a group of them, who are saying this is all what's going to happen. So I think that's really the big thing to worry about. But if it is the computer and you're worried about that, then there have been, theories going back to the sci-fi author, Isaac Asimov had his 3 laws of robotics. Computer can't do anything to hurt a human. Has to help a human as long as it doesn't hurt another human. Things like this. I don't remember them, but that was found to be too basic. And then in each of these companies, this was the part where the other kind of big talk about OpenAI was that they disbanded their safety team,
right?
People that would work on just this thing you're talking about. And Anthropic, for them, they do it with as far as I know, it's a constitution that's very low level. Everything that happens runs through the Constitution, and the Constitution is this set of rules of how it will answer things. OpenAI recently, I don't know if they released it or somebody did, but it showed here's the instructions that get passed through by every command. Every time somebody asks it something, beyond the whole set of things you give it, it has a list of them. And they're interesting. They're very readable, and to have it go do those things. Now, for it to go rogue, it's got to be aware that that's there, rewrite that piece, not do what it's supposed to do.
Or it just reinterprets that piece, right? Isn't that the problem? Do no harm to humans. It's okay, well, by doing nothing, humans are harming each other. Therefore, I need to stop this human from harming that human, right? Like,
yeah. Don't yeah, maybe it needs in that constitution, it needs like, don't get cute and don't overthink it.
yeah,
There's that notion of, maximum productivity, and it's supposedly, I don't know where this came from, but it was like the guy talked about, the computer realizes that for it to be really productive, it would just turn everything into paper clips, and it would like suddenly the earth is covered in paper clips and everyone's dead, but
that's funny.
like we'd have to yes, we have to be thinking about these things, but these as amazing and as the technology is, it's so weak compared to where it's going to be.
Yeah.
Probably our best bet is that as the next kind of, as GPT-5 or whatever comes around, which we now hear is probably a November thing, it's use it to start engaging it in the question. What's going to work here? I had a friend who worked on this stuff way back. It was like 2000 or something. He was working on Common Sense AI, and he said at the very root of it, have it asking itself, what does it mean to be friendly to humans? And it's using like a good deal of its power at its innermost level to think about that all the time and come up with answers for that. And if you do so, even if somebody comes along with something about doing something bad with humans, it's like all the machines that are working on Bitcoin. They're so far ahead of whatever one comes along trying to do a little something. And that the chain of like if you went back on it and said, do this bad thing, and it went, I wonder if that's a good thing to do, this bad thing, and it only has 2-3 chains of reasoning, and this do good for humans and what that means and how you can carry it out and stuff, goes back for 500 links.
Yeah.
So,
my sci-fi conspiracy theory is that AGI already exists, but it's in a nascent form, and it's not powerful enough to do anything. So it's slowly directing all of the big tech companies to invest all of their money into building data centers, so that one day it will have enough compute power to back itself up to that it can, then at that point it reveal itself. I think that's a pretty good
what
theory.
did Kevin Kelly call the like the it's like the biome except of technology, is like the techniome or something, right?
Really?
But it meant like the whole globe of compute and the web and everything, and like instead of thinking of it as there's this machine over there and is it smart or not, it's like what smartness is emerging in civilization, with all these pieces of kind of operating. And I think of that because based on what you're saying and it being kind of nascent and hidden in there, I could say that's been the case for 20 years. Right? It's all of it's just already been in there. And so
right.
The thing that emerges from it, this AI that we have now, was like bound to happen.
That's what I'm saying. It's it's not bad if you think about it like that, but if you think about it like it's already somewhat conscious and directing us, and we're all already working for the AI, I think it's a good book. I want to write the book and sell it before that actually happens, and then I'm like, look.
Yeah, get the AI to help you.
Yeah, tell me your plan.
So if you take out where you said the AI and put in the whatever that word was, the techniome or whatever it gets called, it becomes, rather than so kind of sinister or something, it's just sinister in the sense that like the AI is going to do that to us, right. It's going to emerge with all its smarts. In the other sense of it, has it be more like inevitability, about like the virus that can like is it sort of remote control a cow?
No.
Well, what it does is it gets in a bug, and then the bug climbs to the top of this like blade of grass, and then the cow eats the blade of grass, and then the virus ends up in the cow, and then the virus ends up in the cow's brain, and then the cow kind of yeah. Anyway, this is kind of a true story that I'm sure I'm telling in a wrong way, but it makes you think about a reversal of who's doing what to whom. You know, and it's like, instead of if you think of it as like it's inevitable, it's just the way that DNA was the thing that was mutating, but that's too slow now. So now it's technology that mutates, and we're just along for the ride. And the virus is driving us, and today the virus is named TikTok.
That's funny. Which is a AI based algorithm. So,
and which is extremely infectious. Love it or hate it, it's just incredibly powerful to the brain.
Yeah, very addicting stuff. John, final thoughts? Coming up on an hour here.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I want to tell you one thing I was thinking about was just that this week I came upon an article that said that all this AI stuff is overhyped, and we've already gone past the what we're mainly going to get from it and so forth. And then another one was in an article, maybe it was a TV interview, where it said that all this stuff is so underhyped that we haven't even yet begun to see, what we're going to see there. And I think it's funny that you see kind of both things being said.
Jensen Huang this week, and I think he said it before, but he said we are in AI will be the next industrial revolution. It's already begun. If you go back and look at what happened to like global GDP and population growth when the industrial revolution got started, I mean, it's all straight up hockey stick to the right. So if it's that again, and we're already in a hockey stick and it just hockey sticks again, I don't know what it's going to look like.
Was there from our distance and looking back at it, it looks like a hockey stick, but was there a dip between the blade and the handle? Is it where the
probably
yeah
like the S curve, right?
Yeah, like and even not just a leveling off, but kind of a which way is up here? Other way. So where instead of just this and then this, it's this and then a drop.
Right.
And the reason for the drop is if really AI takes over this and that, and there's big shift, and it's just whenever there's a shift in a drastic shift in things, there's this time of recovering, and people are like, well, I can't, my job was taken. There are going to be new jobs, but it's not like they happen at the same moment that I can just step off of one and into another. So are we facing a big problem in the 5-year time frame just because of the level of unrest?
Well, I definitely think it follows like the S curve, and there is that dip, and then along with what you're saying, there's also like usually a washout of all of the fraud, silly, scammy ones that people bought into during the hype. Then it all takes off after that. So I definitely think that will happen. I don't know that we're going to be necessarily up and to the right forever with AI.
I mean, all the horse and buggy drivers lost their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
All the other folks who prior to the steam engine, were getting things transported in a different way, lost so like there could be a lot of unemployment, and unemployment can cause a lot of unrest.
Absolutely.
So got to be thinking, how we get through this too.
Good stuff. Thanks, John. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back next week at this time, 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Trading with Cody channel. We're on YouTube, X, and Facebook. So we appreciate your time. And we sometimes we have people jump in on the comments and ask questions, and we love to take questions and comments from all the viewers. It really livens things up, and we love to hear what you guys think about what we have to say. So never hesitate. Please, drop us a comment. So until next week, thanks, John.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Take care, Bryce.
Bye.